Hi, I'm Dan Stanton, the editor and founder of Bioprocess Insider. I am delighted to be joined by Julien Messonnier, the Vice President and Chief Scientific Officer at Catalent. Julien, welcome.
Hi, Dan. Thanks. Great to see you, Dan.
Throughout my career as a journalist, I have covered news and developments at Catalent pretty much every step of the way, from the early investments in drug dosage and delivery tech to your entry and constant expansion in the biologics manufacturing space. And then, of course, most recently, your moves into the cell and gene therapy sector. In many ways, for me, Catalent is the canary down the coal mine as far as whatever you venture into. It gives me an early indication of how the momentum in the pharma industry is going. So to start us off, I wonder if you can briefly talk us through Catalent's general strategy or maybe its modus operandi when it comes to supporting the ever-evolving pharma and biopharma space.
Yeah, we can speak about first our entry in the cell and gene therapy space that talks about the strategy. So first of all, let me start by saying that at Catalent, we really love the dynamic of the cell and gene therapy space, and also the disruptive innovation that come on the horizon, right? As you know, Catalent has first entered the gene therapy space back in 2019 through the acquisition of Paragon. And what we really love about Paragon was their deep expertise and capability in viral vector manufacture, and specifically AAV, right? AAV, as you know, Dan, are currently the primary vector for in vivo delivery of genes, and then that was a great entry for us. And earlier this year, we added cell therapy capabilities. Gene and cell is an area that we contemplated from the beginning, right? And we enter cell therapy capability through the acquisition of MasterCell, with the ambition to provide end-to-end integrated solutions to the cell and gene therapy, right? So the MasterCell team is a bit different, right? They're coming earlier into the level of maturity of technologies. Cell therapy is advanced, but probably not as advanced as the gene therapy has been there. And the MasterCell teams brings an amazing experience and capabilities across a broad range of cell modalities, right? They're not just a CAR-T CDMO, as one would believe. They have experience, and that's what we like with the most complex cell modalities. And one could imagine they're working on iNK cell, iPSC, TCR, tumor-infiltrating lymphocytes, even the more complex of the implantable cell therapy that can get encapsulated in a biomaterial and then at the end of it act in vivo as protein factories and much more. So as you can see, Dan, this was a great fit to us and to our heritage of bringing new advanced technology to scale, right? This is a talented team of 200 plus cell therapy scientists and experts, and it's what we really love about MasterCell. So also the thing that is exciting about cell and gene therapy space is the promise to cure patients and not just to help them. So as Catalent, you know, has a very strong culture and very high focus on patients. It's our patient-first culture that is deeply ingrained in the company. And by stepping in this space, we felt like we took our responsibility on that end too. But we're currently integrating Paragon and MasterCell into Catalent Cell and Gene Therapy BU. As you know, it's going to fall under the Catalent Biologics BUs, and we're investing heavily in expansion and development and manufacturing capability, both clinical and commercial, as well as in great talent in Belgium, Maryland, and Texas, right? So we also, because we've got this vision of an end-to-end services in the cell and gene therapy space, we're also integrating with the other Catalent capability, such as clinical supplies and analytical services, because, you know, analytical are extremely complex. Access to analytical is evolving and extremely complex with those emerging modalities. So we really want to link it to the greatest and the best of Catalent and make it a fully integrated offering for our cell and gene customer.
Julien, I'm interested in something you just said there regarding your vision in the cell and gene therapy space to really offer end-to-end services for clients, whether it's in the cell or the gene therapy space. That vision, I'm curious to know if that when that kind of came about and how that fitted in with the two pretty substantial deals you made there, Paragon and MasterCell. Were you looking for a long time to get into this space, or were those deals quite opportunistic when they came along?
No, we've been looking at that for a couple of years before getting into Paragon. We really made our homework, deep homework, and really we came across a lot of opportunity, but we felt that both Paragon and MasterCell were really the right assets for us. And that's the reason why we triggered those with a 1 year time difference, as you've seen, as we discussed previously. but they came from a very deep schooling of the space on our side. And I'll give you some perspective also from a strategic standpoint of how it does fit from an innovation standpoint in the area, right? So, and from my side, personally, there's no better place and time, there's no better time and no better place than Catalent to be leading our science and innovation organization and strategy, screening new emerging innovation in this exciting area. You know, if you take a look at our world, it's a world where molecular, clinical trials and modality are growing more complex. Each of our scientists within Catalent is very well aware of our innovation mission, right? Enabling the emergence of new therapeutic modality by providing access to scale and to manufacturing technology. And when we started 2 years ago to, even before that, 3 to 4 years ago, to look at that space, we took a look at the horizon of new therapeutic modality emerging in preclinical and clinical development. And there is indeed a lot to be optimistic about. Right? It's hard not to be excited when you see innovator and pioneer organization opening up approach that could not be tackled by small molecule and monoclonal antibody, right? Indeed, only a small portion, I would say kind of 10% of the people who agree to different numbers, but it's a small portion of the protein target are currently attainable with small molecule and mAbs. And this new emerging approach, cell and gene therapy and beyond, and the next combination of those two tools, open a wide range of new mechanisms, either activating new cellular functions, replacing defective genes, and affecting the whole system rather than a target, right? So with cell and gene therapy having not reached patients and obtained approval, we've got, and we had at Catalent several reference points that lead us to believe their adoption pattern will follow the one we've seen with mAb, and potentially even at an even faster pace. So, and you certainly have seen it too then. Once the first modality reaches the patient for the first time, many of the barriers, they go away, right? And faster than ever, the scientific community, we've seen that on COVID, is able to adapt, learn, and build from there, right? So therefore, we were, and we're still extremely convinced that companies like Catalent that are ready to adopt and incorporate new modality will likely do really well.
And I guess, I mean, it's not only Catalent obviously competing in this space, but there's been quite a lot of movement and M&A activity within the CDMO space in order to grab some of these cell and gene capacity offerings. How are you, Catalent, seeing the space develop? Obviously, you're a massive player, but is it becoming more less fragmented, more consolidated? How do you view it as a sector as a whole, the CDMO space?
Yeah, you mentioned it right. The sector is evolving at the speed of light right now. So we've seen some level of consolidations, but at the end of the day, I think we're gonna be committed at Catalent to bring this technology to scale, right? We have acquired Paragon and MaSTherCell with the promise of enabling to get manufacturing technology at scale and bring it treatment to the market. So we're going to continue to drive strengthening in the space. And one thing I can speak more deeply is that we want to evolve all technologies independently of what happens in the other CDMO market, right? We want to evolve our technologies, or partnering models, or infrastructure and expertise in the cell and gene therapy field with one ambition, as I mentioned, powering innovation and growth of the life science industry, by becoming its leading development and commercial partner for advanced technology, first-to-scale innovation and integrated solutions. And also, as we mentioned, new modality, because cell and gene therapy is probably restrictive when we see the number of approaches that are being developed into the industry that utilize either the cell tool or the gene tool. Right, and this is why I think something that differentiates us a lot is our dedicated open innovation team, right? Those guys that we said, the organization that we said within Catalent, is staying days and nights on the watch for any new technology innovation, partnership, or collaboration proposal or opportunity that academic or private organization might have in the field of development or delivery or manufacturing technologies, right? So I think that has been in the past, and that will still continue to be a differentiator of Catalent in the broader biologic segments, but also in the cell and gene therapy industry.
Julien, do you think it's more important for a CDMO to be able to offer technologies, platform technologies and such in the cell and gene space rather than, say, the biologics or even the small molecule space?
I mean, those two spaces are attractive. I think the way we've been bringing therapeutic protein and monoclonal antibody manufacturing technology to scale has been amazing at Catalent. Let's figure it out. It was probably 10 years ago, biologics was less than 10% of our revenue at Catalent level, and now it's taking a massive part of it. So I think the speed at which we've been bringing that to scale is good. And even if you look at the mAb sector started in 75 with the first discovery of the way to get access to mAbs. Then we had this first murine mAbs being developed, and it took 10 years to get the first mAb to the market and 13 years to get the follow-on one. So this was enabled by innovation in the industry that have been enabling productions, developments of mAb to scale. And that's what Catalent have been enjoying, and that's, I think, what we're going to be enjoying in the cell and gene therapy industry too.
I suppose also, if you look 10 years or 15 years ago, the sort of relationships you had with clients for products like softgel, or the early days of biologics with you, I guess it was more of a there were technologies involved, but the product it was being sold in bulk, there were larger deals and more of a sort of vendor supplier relationship. With the advent of cell and gene therapies, as you say, these are very innovative, these are very relatively unknown. Are your relationships with your clients evolving to become far more strategic or far more entwined?
Yeah, whatever the segment we're operating, we've been evolving the company toward developing some closer partnership with key innovator in the field, pioneer organization whatsoever, and as early as possible. You've seen our strategy in the small molecule sector where we've been stepping into the early development space with the acquisition of Pharmatek and Juniper. And we really have a powerful engine nowadays that is propelling new molecule into the Catalent ecosystems and enabling drug substance that have promised to scale, right? So that's what we've been doing. So we've been walking from the beginning in the small molecule segments, and we've been continuing on that avenue on the biologics and cell and gene supports to segments to work on partnership model. The way we enable very early to evaluate the way you process, that's often academic or research-based process, has been developed, and make the full diagnostic with dedicated scientific expert teams taken out from our business to evaluate how this process could be made suitable for clinical phase 1. So this is unique, right? If you look some time ago, years back in time, those academic research-based process, they've been sticking sometime to the first clinical phase 1, phase 2 studies, and then afterward, it was quite painful to make the bridging studies because in those new emerging modality, the product is the process, right? And it's more sticking than in traditional modality, right? If you change something in the process, many people will question the bridge and the comparability with your product. And with the current status of the analytical characterization technique that exists for cell and gene, this is making it complex, possible, but complex and lengthy. So really being able to partner earlier with innovator and make this technology and make those scientific experts, I would call it in an open access model, is quite unique. And what we love about MaSTherCell and Paragon is that they have embraced that mindset from the beginning. They've been able to secure and develop very strong partnership with leading innovator on the marketplace, and that really matched the Catalent philosophy and strategy.
So with all that in mind, what's next for Catalent? You talk about keeping your eye out across the sector for innovative technologies, but where can you see Catalent going in the next year or next 5 years, say?
Yeah, I'm probably not in the best position to respond that question, right? We're the only one thing I could say is there's so many new emerging modality building about those platforms, cell and gene, that we're gonna have to be very focused on being able to capture the right innovation in those space, to bring to the innovator in those areas the manufacturing technology to scale so that they could bring this innovation to patients. So that's where we relentlessly focus. That's where we want to make a difference for the industry, and that's where we want to be differentiated in the cell and gene therapy space. Because success depends upon focus, right?
And obviously, it's such a vast and fast-growing sector. It's going to be lucrative on your bottom line as well if all things go well. Julian, I'm going to switch the conversation very briefly over to COVID-19 because we should be sitting on a stage in San Diego discussing this right now in front of a packed theatre, but we are doing this via a video conferencing call. How has Catalent, like the rest of the industry, responded to the rush for development of vaccines and therapies in the COVID-19 space?
Yeah, just allow me a minute. I just need to take a glass of water. Yeah, sorry for that.
Hey, no worries. On the stage by the BPI Theatre, there would have been bottles, so you would have been invited to have been drinking whenever you wanted. So
yeah, okay,
not necessarily bottles of water either. So.
I mean, that's the point of doing calls from our operations, right? Where we got a tough days and we got a long days, and all right, it's great to have time to share perspective with you then. So I would say as a global development and manufacturing partner that supplies medicines and trials to many patients and customers, we've been taking and we are taking decisive actions to minimize the impact on COVID pandemic, either to our employees, to our partners, to the customer and their patients, right? And Catalent was incredibly proactive when you look at it, putting in place a COVID response team and critical processes very, very early, right? And COVID response team is made of senior multidisciplinary team that is reporting directly to John, our CEO, and is relentlessly monitoring the situation and responding fast, right? And recently, we've also created a post-lockdown task force because we're getting always Catalent or eyes ahead of market on the next horizon. What will happen during the next phase of COVID, right? We want to define the pathway for Catalent to operate during the next phase. So this task force will continue to develop and implement new processes and ways of working that will further enhance safe working environment. And as we continue to partner with our customer in effectively going about our business to develop and supply patient treatment, right? That's a key area of focus for us. And on the scientific and innovation front again, so just want to highlight, and you certainly see that the speed at which the scientific community globally has been mobilized sets a brand new standard for collaboration and innovation, right? Even doing it from a distance, respecting social distancing, I mean, the interaction has never been that fast and that productive. So even after the first month within the outbreak, the situation today is still very fluid. There are hundreds of clinical trials across the multiplicity of therapeutic modality. Small molecule antivirals, binding mAbs directed for cytokine release syndromes. Probably seen the deal we signed with Humanigen, new GMGS CSF monoclonal antibody, but also vaccines and cell therapies. And for us, for the Catalent scientific community, it's been exciting. We've been mobilizing in a glimpse of 2,000 scientists to respond to those requests from our current customers and even new customers to help them bring those treatments to the clinic. And hence to scale and to manufacturing capacity, because the first treatment that will make it through will require a huge pull on our operations and on the global operation to supply millions of patients. So we're working with several customers on multiple COVID-related antiviral vaccine diagnostic and treatment for symptoms or either effect of COVID-19. You've probably seen the deal we inked with Johnson & Johnson, lead vaccine candidate, Arcturus Therapeutics, messenger RNA-based vaccines, which is amazing to Humanigen, as I mentioned, GM-CSF monoclonal antibody and more recently, you've probably seen more communication on one of the many antivirals we're supporting here, the antiviral developed by Innate Therapeutics, which is targeting COVID. So we're also working on delivering 2 million of COVID test kits monthly, which is quite stellar also. And but as we've been speaking over the last 5-10 minutes about new therapeutic modality, we've even announced May 28th entering into a manufacturing agreement for the AAV COVID vaccine program at the Massachusetts Eyes and Ear and the Massachusetts General Hospital. And this is an experimental vaccine that is an adeno-associated virus vector, very close to our strong platform we got on AAV at Paragon, to deliver and express the spike gene of the SARS-CoV-2 virus, which indeed caused COVID. And this vaccine is here to elicit an immune response, right? So Catalent really enables those innovators that we call it to quickly access to scale, leveraging here in the case of AAV vaccine, a commercial ready platform.
I think what you're saying there, Julian, is a great testament to how Catalent has built up its business over, well, since the start, really. The fact that you're able to mobilize and help industry across a whole variety of different modalities and the different types of therapies and vaccines trying to solve this problem of COVID. One thing I want to ask very briefly about, and I know we are way over time here, the AAV COVID program, for example, and also the push for viral vector-based vaccines to combat COVID-19. As I understand it, there is already a bit of a shortage of viral vector capacity due to the huge amounts of gene therapies that are progressing through the clinic. Is this sudden surge of viral vector-based vaccines for coronavirus going to be problematic and maybe push some of the gene therapies that were starting to evolve, put them at the sidelines for the moment? How is industry balancing this need for capacity when they're trying to look at using this for COVID-19 as well?
First of all, the great news on this one is there was a treatment that was research-based. They developed it for the proof of concepts, and they could access to Catalent and the other partner in this consortium and in this group. They could access to scale to us, right? As I quoted previously, we are investing heavily in expansion of development and manufacturing capabilities in the cell and gene therapy space, both for clinical and commercial. And it's also called for talents. We've been attracting talents to fill in those plans. So we're fairly comfortable that the dynamic we see in this space, we're staying ahead of the curve of investing. So we're going to bring scale to the industry. Certainly, COVID is bearing its own sets of stress and timings, but as an organization that fulfill its responsibility toward patients, will be at the rendezvous.
Well, Julian, it's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you and discussing Catalent and its services and how it fits in the space. And I very much look forward to hearing the next development at Catalent, the next acquisition, and the next innovation that comes through.
Thank you, Dan. It's been a pleasure for me too. Thank you.
Thanks.